Middle Tennessee is definitely going to bring pressure, but is it the right kind of pressure to actually bother Brady Cook and the Missouri Tigers? Let's talk about that, and I'll give you my final pick for today's ball game coming up right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And if you're heading to the game today, looking for last-minute tickets, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And I want to start this show today by, of course, talking about Missouri and the 20.5-point underdogs right now, the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. And I've talked a lot about this week, and many people have, about how this team's going to give Missouri a much different look than what South Dakota did. But you know what? In my opinion, I think we're going to see a similar final score. And in fact, I'm going to go 38-10 Missouri. I think you're going to see, similarly, this Missouri defense is going to shut down Middle Tennessee, in my opinion. I just can't see any way that, despite the fact that team plays at a much faster pace than South Dakota, hey, maybe I'll end up looking stupid after the game. But I really think this Missouri defense is going to shut down the Blue Raiders. And honestly, when it comes to the aggression of the Blue Raiders, of Middle Tennessee, they're going to blitz a lot. And to some people, well, their conclusion is, hey, Brady Cook, you look at him statistically, like most college quarterbacks, he's much better when he isn't facing pressure. But my question is it the wrong type of pressure? Because if you have to bring 6 guys, 7 guys, 5 guys, whatever it might be, in pressure over and over again to try to affect the quarterback, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Middle Tennessee will hit Cook a couple times, pressure him some, probably even sack him a time or two. I'm sure they'll get home eventually, but I'm pretty sure they're going to give up some big plays behind that. Again, tunnel screens to Luther Burden. Yeah, that play is probably going to work a time or two in this ball game if I have any predictions there. But to me, I'd be much more worried if Middle Tennessee was the type of ball club that could get pressure with 4, maybe even 5. But if they're having to bring that many extra guys, to me, that's just not the type of pressure that's really going to affect Brady Cook in Missouri all that much. I think they're going to have a plan for what Middle Tennessee is throwing at them. Again, it's one thing if the 3 technique is just blowing up the guard and the tackle each and every time downfield, then yeah, you're going to have problems. That guy's just going to disrupt your entire offense. When it comes to blitzing, I think Missouri's going to be fine today. I really do. And by the way, that 20.5-point line over at FanDuel Sportsbook, along with for that big of a point spread, a relatively low 47.5 total for the ball game, that kind of tells me that my buddies over at FanDuel Sportsbook think this is going to be a low-scoring game on Middle Tennessee's part, in my opinion. Otherwise, you wouldn't see that relative sort of discrepancy there, for lack of a better term, or a smaller spread between the total and the actual point spread. That's fairly unusual, considering that's one of the lowest totals of the entire slate. Again, that tells me that I don't think Middle Tennessee is going to have a lot of success moving the football against Missouri. But speaking of point spreads, Kansas State, 14.5-point favorites today in Manhattan against Troy. And of course, well, Missouri fans unfortunately know what it's like to go down to Troy in an upset. So an upset in Manhattan would not be the craziest thing in the world, not predicting it by any means, but I'm certainly going to be monitoring that game very closely today when it kicks off at 11 a.m. and definitely going to break it down for you coming up next week just to get a preview of the Wildcats, of course, going in to week 3. But you know what my real question is for you, my lovely listener? What is my best way that I control Kansas State fans? coming into week 3. And I know I like to kid around a good bit on this show. I'm actually not kidding about this one because last year, well, I was quite successful in terms of getting a lot of Kansas State fans to click on my podcast. And hey, clicks are clicks, baby. I'll take it however I can get it. And from my experience, Kansas State fans are a rather passionate bunch online, rather vocal and passionate, especially when you say something about their program they don't like. They're coming at you sort of like the 1984 Ministry of Truth. It's pretty unbelievable. I actually respect it. Their fan base may not be the biggest in the country, just like their stadium isn't the biggest in the country. Hey, there's a good troll job right there. But you know what? Their fans are really passionate about their Wildcats. I'll give them that. Are they nice to fans on the road when you go to their stadium? Well, that's another discussion. But by the way, speaking of trolling, I've already seen some Kansas State fans trolling Missouri fans online for the Tigers selling out week 3 against Kansas State. Of course, as I mentioned in my previous program, that is the Tigers' first sellout since 2019. Of course, their first post-pandemic sellout. 2020 doesn't count, right? You sell all 10,000 tickets. Hey, congratulations there. But I'm not really sure why Kansas State fans are acting like this is an attempt to dunk on Missouri fans, because they're going, aha, we're the only reason that you guys sold out. Well, first of all, I don't know. Let's say a whole bunch of Kansas State fans show up, for instance. Maybe there's 10,000 of them who show up next week. What do I know? In the game time sort of secondary market world of ticketing that we live in, anything is possible there. But if that happens, wouldn't that just show that Kansas State fans are obsessed with Missouri fans? This is all pretty childish stuff when you really break it down. But there is no doubt that this is an interesting matchup. The Tigers have not played Kansas State in football for how many years now? It's been a dozen years, right? We've played the Wildcats in basketball at some point in the last few years. But correct me if I'm wrong, this is their first matchup in football since the Tigers left the Big 12. So really the main thing here, obviously in the post-pandemic world, the reality is attendance is down just about everywhere. Also, the last 2 seasons for Missouri have been average, I would say, at best. You're talking 6 and 7 each of the last 2 seasons. And the reality is, in the early parts of both of those seasons, Missouri has suffered a loss that has really taken the wind out of the fan sails. A couple years ago, it was, of course, at Boston College. Missouri loses that game, and, just the momentum of the whole season, just a lot of air was let out of the balloon there, for instance. Well, unless Missouri, God help us if we lose to Middle Tennessee today, but as long as that doesn't happen, it makes a lot of sense that, yeah, Missouri, we're undefeated. It's only 2 games in, but at least the air hasn't been let out of the balloon just yet. So Wildcat fans, if you want to act like you guys are so special because Missouri sold out a game for you, well, you should feel a little special, I guess, a little flattered. Again, I don't know how many of you all bought up tickets. We'll find out here in a week. But in my opinion, it has much more to do with the excitement for Missouri and, again, not just being let down already in September. We'll see what happens. And, of course, week 3, of course, today as well. Memphis in week 4. These are all games that Missouri's got to at least play their C-B game to win, much less against Kansas State, where they're going to need probably a B+ or A effort. And if you're like me and you enjoy following the business world, economics, the stock market, all that good stuff, you may be noticing quite the showdown here between Charter Cable and Disney, aka ESPN. Well, this sort of reminded me something that Missouri had absolutely incredible timing in retrospect when it comes to actually entering the Southeastern Conference. So I want to talk about all that, but first I want to tell you that these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you have to do is open up your current LinkedIn profile, which I'm sure most of you listening already have and just add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to, again, your current LinkedIn profile to help spread the word that you're in the market to hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Again, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. College football is back, baby, and this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Live each Friday. Locked On will go live from 10 a.m. to noon Central on every Locked On College YouTube channel. We're going to cover the playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth with our bevy of hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff live every Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Central on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. And speaking of time, would you believe it is 5:30 in the morning Central Time as I record this? What am I doing up so early? I wish I could tell you. Frankly, there was a stray bottle of Camus Cabernet hanging around my house on a Friday night, and I just couldn't help myself. And now it's doing a bit of a number on my sleep pattern. So hopefully I'm making it through this episode without too many stumbles. So I apologize to all of you. But you know what? You know who shouldn't apologize? Gary Pinkel. That's for darn sure. Because if it weren't for that guy, I think it's pretty safe to say that Missouri would not be in the Southeastern Conference right now. For all of the pining that older Missouri fans do, even myself on occasion, you have some member berries, you chew on them a little bit, and you think back to the olden days of the Big 12 or even the Big 8, most importantly, if you can even go back that far as I can, of course. But Gary Pinkel, of course, the timing for Missouri to enter the Southeastern Conference was absolutely incredible, because if it were today, if it were 5 years later, certainly 10, 12 years later today, there's no chance that the Southeastern Conference is coming calling for the Missouri Tigers. Not only because the Tigers have struggled a bit in football over the last few seasons, that's the Gary Pinkel element, right? That's that part of the timing, is that it just so happened that Missouri was basically in the middle of the best run they had certainly since the 1960s, I would say. I think that's pretty safe to say. From 2007 to circa 2014, you want to go back a little farther than that, even in the Brad Smith era. Okay, well, we'll do that too. The point is, if it weren't for Pinkel, it weren't going to happen. But that's only half of the equation. The other half is the timing of cable television, because almost at the moment that Missouri entered the Southeastern Conference, that was the moment that cable television essentially peaked. And now what you're seeing is, after years and years of ESPN/Disney, their parent corporation, ESPN and Disney were essentially holding cable companies hostage for years and years, because, well, if you didn't have ESPN on your cable package, people would switch to DirecTV or Dish Network or whatever it might be. Essentially, you'd have a bunch of angry customers on your hands if you didn't have ESPN. Well, what also happened for years and years is they not only made you take ESPN, they made you take ESPN2. And they made you take ESPN News and ESPN Classic. And guess what came around about 10 years ago? Another channel that every cable subscriber must be forced to pay for. That was the entire model. And of course, I'm talking about the SEC network. And in order to get more and more people to be forced to pay for the SEC network, to pay for yet another ESPN channel, what needed to happen? Well, the SEC needed to expand its geographic footprint. And what better way than to get a state that's right next to the SEC footprint, has two major cities in it with lots of cable subscribers in St. Louis and Kansas City, plus another 4 or 5 million other people throughout the state. Hey, we're just going to force all of them to take the SEC network, another $5 on your cable package for all intents and purposes, just pulling that number out of thin air. But from what I understand about the TV business, I think that's actually a fairly accurate number. But of course, what's happening now? Well, people are cutting the cord. People are saying, the heck with all this cable stuff. We're just going to stream. Hey, ESPN's on YouTube TV. Well, that's actually quite a bit cheaper, for instance, than your typical cable or satellite package. But now the cable companies have now called ESPN's bluff, and ESPN's going, wait a second. Wait, I thought we had you guys held hostage. You're actually, wait, this gun isn't real. Actually, it turns out ESPN doesn't really know what to do right now. And if you've been noticing what Disney's stock has done for the last year or so, well, it's been basically straight down. So the point in all this here is that, again, if all of this realignment stuff was happening 5-10 years prior to Gary Pinkel's run at Missouri, I think obviously when Missouri was just not a very good football program, clearly the SEC is not coming calling, right? And also, well, you wait 5-10 years, especially today, I think even 5 years ago, the writing has been on the wall for quite a while when it comes to cutting the cord. Certainly the pandemic, that whole period increased, I think, a lot of those trends. But anyway, bottom line is, if you're a Missouri fan, I really believe you should be thanking your lucky stars that you're in the SEC. This is the best conference in America, and along with the Big Ten, it's just money-wise, it's the only place that you really want to be. And unfortunately, the old Big 8, the old Big 12, that idea, it's just that hypothetical scenario doesn't even really exist. There is no realistic scenario where that structure would have survived. So if you're a Missouri fan, be happy where you are, and also feel really fortunate because, again, half the timing was Gary Pinkel. The other half of it is it just so happened that Missouri got in the conference at the perfect moment where cable television had ultimately peaked. And coming up, let's talk about the uniforms this week in another rip-roaring edition of Project Run Play. But first, I want to tell you that if you're ever stressed out about buying tickets to a Missouri game, for instance, like today, at the last second, well, I got the absolute perfect solution for you. It's called the Game Time app, because buying tickets to your favorite events, it shouldn't be stressful. That's why I have Game Time, the app, right in front of me right now. In fact, let's fire up the phone as I burn time here while my phone loads. Hey, you can get into Missouri football today for $36 all in. That's actually quite a bit more expensive than last week. Hopefully a good crowd today here at Faurot Field. I'm guessing we're going to surpass 50,000, but if you want to be a part of this big crowd, again, you've got to download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's talk about the get-ups for this week in another edition of Project Run Play. And this is basically the same uniform combination as last week, except with the white helmet instead. So, and as I've said before, I think the push for white helmets at home is the primary reason for Missouri switching to the white font on the home blacks. But I personally am more of a fan of the white helmets that go with the road whites, because that's, it's a non-traditional look, but to me, just a really clean look for sure. The white on white on white. I can go with that look on the road. But to me, though, at home, I just prefer the old, if you want to go black on black on black on black, fine with that. But to me, the black tops, gold pants, black helmets in particular, that's just the traditional look. And frankly, the better aesthetic look at home. Forget about tradition for a second. I just think it looks better, the black helmets with the black tops. Again, on the road, all whites, I think that's a really clean, nice look, but I think the helmets at home are a little bit too cute by half. I would save it for the road, but that's just me. Now, when it comes to some other things happening at Faurot Field, I have mentioned that so far, at least, we'll see how it goes here in week 2. I'll let you know after I grab a couple beers at the game. But so far, I don't love the no cash in Faurot Field idea. To me, I just don't understand why. I'm all for Apple Pay, paying with your watch, all that good stuff. I have all those options. I'm not a Luddite, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, why take away the option of cash, especially when a lot of times, hey, a $9 beer, I can just give somebody a $10 bill. They can keep the $1 for a tip, and we can just move on our merry way. Moves the line along a lot quicker. That's just why take away the option? That's the part that I don't understand. But I will say, though, the electronic tickets, that's something that's been going on for a while, but also the parking passes are now electronic. I didn't have any problems getting quickly into my lot or anything like that. The ability to just be able to transfer a parking pass, not having to physically meet up with somebody, hand them their pass, or when you sell it to somebody, hey, you can just transfer it to them. No need to meet some stranger at a parking lot at Schnucks or whatever. No, instead, you can just send it to their email. They can Venmo you, and you'll all just be on your merry way. So far, I think that's a great addition. Again, I'm not a Luddite. I just don't understand why we got rid of cash. And finally, one last note here, Mizzou Arena finally getting a bit of a facelift here. A couple months ago, Missouri teased out that they were going to be changing the gold seats, at least in the bottom level of the stadium, to black. And I think that'll probably look better on TV. It's something that Missouri fans have complained about really since Mizzou Arena ever opened, is a lot of times those club seats on the camera side, well, they're vacated, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb on television when those seats are empty. So maybe the black will conceal that a little better. Hopefully fans will just, I don't know, maybe be in those seats. Can we figure something out there too? But the other half of the facelift, Missouri getting a new video board in Mizzou Arena as well. So that should be a nice look for what is already, to me, one of the best arenas, most comfortable places, one of the most enjoyable places to watch college basketball that there is. I know it's not doesn't have the tradition of, somewhere in Indiana or something like that, but Mizzou Arena, to me, a great place to watch basketball, especially when it's rocking like Dennis Gates had it last season. So hopefully Faurot Field is rocking today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this edition of Locked On Mizzou. Thanks for joining me as always. And you know what? I'm gonna get going as fast as I can post game. We'll see if I get something up tonight. At the very, very least, Sunday morning, I'm gonna have a recap of whatever happens against Middle Tennessee right here for you on Locked On Mizzou.